One of the problems that I could see around myself is kids is spending a lot of device time. In one of the marriages I was attending, I saw a little 1.5-year-old girl constantly on mobile for a couple of hours. Kids at that age can only understand color. They are just getting fascinated by colors. They don't know what's happening on the device. But getting a little bit to the older kids also, they're spending a lot of time on video games or they are watching animations on loop. So I thought, why not make part of their time productive? Because screen is not going anywhere. So there are two thought processes out here, right?
Welcome to today's episode of Tech Beyond Boundaries, where we delve into the fascinating world of technology and innovation. Today, we are honored to have with us a visionary leader who has made significant strides in both the education and the data analytics sector. Please join me in welcoming Ashutosh, a serial entrepreneur and a pioneer in leveraging technology for transformative change. Hi, Ashutosh, how have you been?
Thanks, Anna. Great to be here and thanks for having me. So pretty good. How are you?
Good too. Thank you for asking. I mean, we have been trying to get this podcast done for so long. Thank you for so much for accepting our request and coming on this podcast. Thank you so much, Ashutosh. So let's start this podcast with your journey first. Please tell us your story. Like, where did you study? How you got into technology roles, and which are the ones you enjoyed the most?
Okay, great. So I did my engineering from IIT Roorkee. First 3 years, I was pretty much focused on doing my chemical engineering, but then .com happened. So I also got a role in a software services company in Mumbai. And that was the start of my technology career. Even though I was kind of always passionate about computers, even in school, I had computer science in 11th, 12th, way back in 93, 94, when it was not such a kind of a known thing. And school didn't used to have computers, very good computers at that time.
Yeah.
Right. Got an immediate opportunity to travel to US, spent a couple of years there. So got to experience the software culture in US directly and working for large companies like General Electric. Couple of years down the line, I decided to come back, of course, for my family. My parents are here, my sisters were here, right? So then I think the game changer for me was joining a company called Global Logic. It was about 400 people company at that time. Today, it's a Hitachi company, more than 10,000 employees, right?
Yeah.
But back then, it was really a startup. We're doing product engineering for a lot of Bay Area technology startups.
Yeah.
And that's where I got an opportunity to start working with one of the very hot startup in the area of NoSQL database and Hadoop way back in 2007.
Okay.
When it was just starting up. Hadoop was becoming a buzzword at that time, right? So did a lot of interesting data engineering problems there. Then spending 5 years, 6 years there, I decided to kind of start my own boutique consulting company in data engineering and analytics. So again, a very interesting project that I would like to mention is we're trying to do multi-million-dollar products, two of them for one of the largest publisher in Europe. And I was kind of traveling every week to Pune to do that from Noida. And we were working with their offshore team. There was a ThoughtWorks company involved as well in that product, where firsthand I got to experience real agile processes.
Yeah.
So very interesting engineering problems we solved on those products. Then there were a lot of analytics product in between, but another one that I would like to definitely mention is my last stint, which I did at iDream Career. I was working as a CTO there, a very nimble, small team, about 20 people, and we developed one of the, I think it's one of the best career mobility products in India as of now. We developed it for about 18 months. It got showcased on Shark Tank season 3 very recently.
Really? Okay.
Right. And so then I thought, again, entrepreneur bug, once an entrepreneur, always an entrepreneur. So I thought I'll kind of start again. So I started KidsNagri with my wife, and I have an awesome team of faculty, a very small team again, but we are experimenting pretty amazing things at KidsNagri.
Yeah. So I really wanted.
Long description. Sorry about that, but
No, no,
yeah,
not at
that's
all, not at all.
yeah.
That is what we're here for, listening your story, right? So I really wanted to know about KidsNagri. Like when I read your bio, when I read about you on Google as well as on LinkedIn, KidsNagri, it's what excited me the most because I have two kids, 8 and 3. So being a working
Wow.
mother, I'm always in this constant battle, or you can call it a moral dilemma of engaging my kids and secondly, making the screen time more productive. So I really want to
Right.
know the story behind the founding of KidsNagri. Like what inspired you to start this venture? Was it the same thought process? Like also you might have kids too, right? So was it the same thing like me?
So yes, I mean definitely. I have two daughters, 11 and 16, right? So
Uh-huh.
definitely, I think I've seen their journey. But education is not new to me because I've worked with a lot of publishers across the world. Some of the largest publishers like Thomson Reuters, the Springers of the world, and
Mm-hmm.
even in India, I think when I was trying a couple of things, I've interacted with founders doing exam prep in Quota and doing a little bit of POC grade analytics
Oh,
products for them,
okay.
right? So education was always there, and of course when you have kids you have seen their journey,
Totally.
and education is something you do as a part of pretty much half of your life,
Correct.
right? So but one of the problems that I could see around myself is kids are spending a lot of device time. I
True.
mean, in one of the marriages I was attending, I saw a little 1.5-year-old girl constantly on mobile for a couple of hours, right? And kids at that age can only understand colors. They are just getting fascinated by colors. They don't know what's happening on the
Yeah.
device. But getting a little bit to the older kids also,
Mm-hmm.
what they're doing is they're spending a lot of time on video games,
Mm-hmm.
or they are watching animations on loop.
Correct.
So there are a lot of animation grade kind of products out there, which they kind of keep watching on the TV. Uh, Private elite students, they have access to a lot of tabs and those kind of things. So I thought, why not make part of their time productive? Because screen is not going anywhere. So there are two thought processes out here, right?
I
Can
can
we
watch
take
that.
away the screen from them?
Yeah.
Which is possibly, I think, most of the parents have given up, at least in cities. And the second thing is, yeah, I mean, you can relate to it, right?
That's
So,
why I'm laughing.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, and the second thing is, if they're watching 3 hours of screen every day, uh, can 1 or 2 hours of that be made productive and still be fun for them?
Mm-hmm.
So the idea that we kind of came up with is we will create story-based learning approach
Mm-hmm.
where say we have curated short stories, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. So kids will still be hearing the stories, but they will be learning in the process. For example, let me give an example of there's a story called AI Ka Secret Garden, where we are teaching young kids about artificial intelligence,
Yeah.
where a girl goes in a kind of a mythical garden, is talking to trees about AI,
Okay.
right? And a rose or one of the trees is teaching her math, so she gets an inclination that yes, AI can be used for teaching methodologies as well, but a kid is hearing it in a story form.
Story form. Right.
Also, we have taken a little bit of animation away from it, because animation, when that happens, the creativity or the boost or the thinking kind of gets away from there, right?
Correct.
So
Yeah.
what we have made is like a book kind of a thing,
Mm-hmm.
where images come in, there's a
Mm-hmm.
background voice, so it's like a dadi nani style bedtime stories
Yeah. Yeah.
which kids are hearing.
Yeah.
Now the thing is, kids are hooked on to animations. They understand animations more. So of course, it's a habit changing product,
Correct.
but that's how we are kind of conceptualizing it as of now.
Right. Right. I also feel like kids, they learn a lot better when they're learning through visual mediums and games
Yes.
and quizzes rather than through the verbal ones. I mean, this has been my personal
Yes.
experience as well. Along with that, do you feel that coming from like the Indian curriculum, which is a very traditional based curriculum, right? Do you think this type of teachings which are employed, teaching methods which are being employed by Kids Nagri, they can be inculcated into the Indian curriculum, or whether they should go hand in hand, and kids will benefit through this? Whether this is this the kind of thinking you have, that that kind of thinking too?
So that's a great question. I think so. One of the thing is we started thinking this product more as a supplementary learning product,
Okay.
where the primary learning is still kind of remains the same, but can we inculcate additional learning and which is more future skill based or current skill based or what kids would need in the future.
Right.
What schools are tied to is basics, right? Primary school is more about basics.
Correct.
Right. And then the secondary school kind of takes a notch above that.
Right.
And then you get into the professional learning space where you kind of start learning more advanced skills. Right. And start thinking about your professional career.
Correct.
Now, what we are kind of targeting is primarily the primary and the secondary school, right? Ages 6 to 14 years, where story-based approach can work out. And after that, in ninth, children gets busy with their exam preps and other kind of products come in. There's a lot of pressure coming from parents also. They also get anxious that, yeah, we need to kind of start thinking about our career.
Correct.
So that's where we want to kind of primarily make our impact. But coming back to your question about can we include this as a part of a curriculum?
Correct.
So I think you can kind of put that in a little bit, or that could become more like a homework kind of a thing, where teachers can say, rather than me giving you a hard homework, why don't you listen to 3 stories from KidsNagri on this topic? Yeah. And we'll have discussion about that and we'll ask questions about it. Totally. Right. And that kind of helps them a little bit kind of make learning more playful.
Learning more fun. Totally. To be fair, there are many schools throughout India which have started incorporating technology into their curriculum, like in example, animations and interactive whiteboards. But I guess there's still a lot of improvement which is needed to be done in that. But what can we as parents and educators do to support children in adapting to and benefiting from technology and making the screen time more productive and educational?
So again, a great question. I think last 2 months, 3 months after a launch of our kind of alpha product, really getting into a beta mode, I have personally interacted with at least 500 plus parents, right? And one of the things that keep happening is many a times they are not even aware that their kids have come and basically spend time on social media. Right. A lot of them, particularly, and not kind of brand anyone, but and even I shouldn't say even working parents only. I think even how parents who are not working in that scenario also, just because they're busy in so many things, to be fair to them.
Yeah.
Kids have devices as young as 6-year-old, 7-year-old, and 10, 11-year-old. There are kind of in boards who come on the social media, spend time, and then whatever they find as a free product, right? Or whatever they find as interesting as per their limited kind of understanding, they start spending time with that.
Time on that. Totally. Yeah.
Right. Now it could be animation. It could be a simple drawing class. It could be really anything. So their whole learning is not structured.
Totally.
Even though it might be free.
Yeah.
It is not structured. It is not progressive. So one day they might be seeing something. Another day they might be seeing something else. Right. So what parents, I think, need to do is just spend 15 minutes of your time every day with your kids on making their device time productive and progressive.
Totally.
And it will only become progressive if it is structured.
Totally.
And if you are taking kind of looking at animations from different sources, most likely it will not be structured.
That's true.
Right? It will be random. Someday you will be looking at something and another day you will be just looking at completely different thing, disconnected, and you would not know what really you kind of learned.
Yeah. So I guess.
Right. So 15 minutes of the time is what I say parents to spend with their kids, along with them on their devices.
Yeah.
Most of the parents are here. They say कि बच्चों ने already device पे खर्च कर लिया इतना time. Why do I need to sit with them and encourage device time? And I think that needs to change. They need to spend 15 minutes on the right kind of device time.
That's true. When you're talking about structuring and, but there is a need for, since we're catering to a younger side of the audience, right? We are K-8 students as well. So one thing amongst this audience is to constantly create engaging, age-appropriate content. And coming from, like,
True.
you are an entrepreneur, you have founded KidsNagri, so you would be catering to this part, right? So how do you constantly create engaging, age-appropriate content? Like my kid, if I sit with him for 15 minutes, then another 15 minutes for the next day, he will be bored with me. I really say that. So how do you will ensure that you are, constantly creating age appropriate content? And how do you ensure that the digital content at KidsNagri, it caters to the developmental stages of different age groups?
Okay, so consciously we have taken a decision that we will start from the age of 6.
Right.
Before that, I think device time has to be really, really
Low.
reduced a lot, right? That's kind of scientifically proven a little bit, right? So starting 6 years, so we have now 3 to 4 categories of courses. So suppose let me talk about, say, our traditional art courses, right, or our world culture courses. There are kind of categories that we have launched: 6+ years, 8+ years, and 10+ years.
Right. Yeah.
So in a traditional art, 6+ years, we start with as simple as mandala art and clay art, which is lippen, right? Where kids want to kind of play with clay also, with mirrors. They want to kind of draw random patterns, which is mandala, helps them kind of focus. But then when we go to 8+, we get into a little bit more advanced art form like Pattachitra and Gond, right? And then 10+, we get into things like Madhubani and Varliya. So they are kind of progressing in their learning process. And also we know that Madhubani 6+ years cannot do that. Right? It's very, very difficult. So that's how it is kind of progressive and structured on the art side. Let me give you an example of word culture. Word culture, we have a course of 6+ years where we are catering to culture of 6 countries, right? And 6+, we talk about food, cuisine, right, and dresses, right? And then we progress from 8+, where we're talking about ethics, right? What kind of manners or stories around like good ethics in those 6 countries.
Right.
But then as we progress, then we get into history, architecture, right? Those kind of things are at 10+. That's how we have kind of structured it out at an age appropriate level. And I think these are pretty interesting things which you don't find very easily out there.
That's true.
But it's kind of would be interesting for parents to kind of explore.
That's true. I mean, I have seen multiple apps and websites which caters to this age group, and I didn't see anyone promoting Indian traditional arts like Lippen, Madhubani, Worli, whichever you said, right? So what role do you believe traditional art plays in the overall development of children, especially in a technologically driven world? Like there are programs which are aiming and teaching just programming, just coding, which is mostly nowadays it's like there is an influx of all these websites and all these apps, right? So what role do you think KidsNagri can aim to fill in this gap with the help of the traditional art?
So we are doing technology as well. I think technology is, just to be fair, technology is very, very important piece in the overall development of child. But coming to your question about traditional art itself, right? So art is kind of proven, like mandala, it's proven that if you will spend time with mandala, it will help you de-stress. It will help you focus. I've drawn a mandala myself. Like my elder one made me do it one time, and it took me about 1.5 hours to complete a simple mandala. And I had to focus so much. Right? So again, Lippen, you kind of play with the clay, motor skills kind of develop. Those kind of things. But then when you get into a more intricate art forms like Madhubani, it also has a tradition to it.
Right.
You also learn about history, how that art form was originated. And the great thing is most of these art forms are from different states of India.
Right.
So you're also learning about the cultural values and how it kind of originated, the stories around it. So we don't just teach them art, how to draw it. We also tell them how they originated, what's the story behind that, and what was the reason it kind of took that form. So all that is kind of, and with all that, these are like pretty short recorded courses, just 2.5 hours.
Right.
So kid can finish it very quickly and then spend time doing DIY activity. But parents need to spend time, because kids, I think, until and unless their parents are sitting with them, it's very difficult to inculcate an habit changing product, because everything said and done, Mickey Mouse is more attractive
That's true.
than Madhumani art, right?
Yeah.
Everything said and done, right? So they would always get attracted towards Chota Bheem or Mickey Mouse of the words. And to be fair, they need to spend time there as well.
Right.
Totally. I'm saying don't spend 4 hours there, probably spend 1 hour there and spend a little bit more time learning these skills as well.
That's true. That's true. Coming to my next question, like you come from a very rich technological background, right? You've been the CEO of VcubeC Data Analytics as well, which is a consulting firm which provides databases to drive the critical organizational and businesses. So tell me more about this. Like, how did you founded this company, and what were the biggest challenges you faced? Tell me more about this, please.
Right. So it was pretty interesting journey. As I said, I was working with Global Logic for about 6 years, and I interacted with a couple of Bay Area startups. I also got to work with a startup or French startup, which kind of provided different kind of cultural and technological values. So with that, I think data engineering was going to the cusp cycle. So I thought it's a great time to start on my own. And I starting some boutique engineering and analytics product. So what we became subject matter experts of these technologies as a boutique company.
Okay.
And we used to go in and help larger projects which were running in, say, large service integrator companies. For example, Infosys of the world or Wipros of the world, right? So we used to go in as subject matter expert and help them implement some of these critical technology stack out there, right? Things like NoSQL databases, Hadoops of the world, Spark, data analytics was coming up. So all that we kind of used to incorporate. Very interesting challenges. Like, let me talk about two projects here. One was healthcare, which we were doing for, without naming the client, we are doing it for one of the largest pharma company in the world, right? One of the largest pharma companies. And we're thinking about how to make clinical trials so clinical trials, just for audience purpose, clinical trials is something when any pharma company has to do before launching a drug or a medicine. Right. So drug is more like a technical name, but it's called medicine in layman terms, into the market, right? And they have to do these trials.
Right.
Now, one is when they're doing a trial, they get an evidence that it's working out fine, but then there is a real world evidence that they need to kind of establish that this drug or a medicine is really working out fine.
Correct.
And it's not a very simple project, because you're getting data from hundreds of data sources. So how do you integrate all that data together?
Right.
And make meaningful decisions and output out of that. I'm simplifying this whole process, but there's a lot of technology involved behind the scenes, right? But there's a lot of integration of the different data sources or variety of data sources out there. And you're talking about humongous data in terabytes, actually, which you need to kind of analyze.
Right.
So that was a very interesting project. And then the second project that I mentioned before, also having an impact of multi-million-dollar products, which we were doing for one of the largest publishers. So one product was for manufacturing units, where we were actually dealing with chemical equations in a database, right? And that's a very difficult problem to solve. Right. Even again, if I talk in layman terms, even a chat GPT would have, or a LLM of the world will have difficulty solving, say, equations which are that complex to kind of understand. And we were doing it 10 years back in a NoSQL database and understanding those chemical equations in there, and which were using for metallurgical manufacturing units.
Right.
So pretty interesting data engineering problems. And the crux of the problem most of the time was integrating multiple data sources so that you can unify them and make a critical decision-making product for the.
So when you're talking about integrating all this information, right, all this infrastructure, so how can it will come at a cost, right? So how can organizations they balance the cost of upgrading their data infrastructure with the potential benefits of using data analytics?
So at that time, I think most of the clients that I was working with, they were like already at least $1 billion companies, right? So the benefits, the projects themselves were kind of very costly to implement, but then the benefits were multifold for them, and they were getting kind of ROIs very easily within 6 months to 12 months kind of a time frame. But let me translate this question more at a startup stage, right? And then how does the startups can use this?
Can balance that.
So I think SaaS has changed that a lot, and you will find a lot of softwares now in the market which will provide you with a monthly licensing. For example, a simple example like a CRM, right? CRM is a technology which is there always, but now even a startup can afford a very progressive CRM coming from, say, Zoho or Fresh Sales, just for a couple of $1,000 per month, and kind of use that to integrate their data as well. And right, or even like a product like Databricks with cloud licenses, a lot of it has become affordable even for small to mid-sized companies.
Right. So you also talked about handling terabytes of data, right? So there's a large amount of data. When there is a large amount of data, I think there will be an evolving threat of security. So how did you handle those security threats and ensure the data privacy of all the clients which you have catered to?
Okay, so a lot of these products, NoSQL database, have a lot of security features built in, right? So things like row level security, or even or an element level security. What I'm saying is, if you think like a table format, which most of us understands in an Excel, a row at an Excel could be protected and given access to a particular set of person or people. So earlier what used to happen was the security was at a kind of tabular level. Then security has, I can talk about it like for hours. I don't know how much time we have, but there is also a security aspect at rest versus in motion, right? So one is when you're transferring the data, right? How do you kind of manage it? So there's a whole redaction approach that works there. And when it is at rest, then there is a whole encryption approach that works there. Right. So most of these products, the databases, the newer databases have these features kind of built in. But coming to the analytics part of it, when you are getting the data from the database for analytics purpose and using it for decision making, there's a whole redaction approach which works. And what you do in redaction is that the multiple ways of redacting it, but masking is one technique. So you mask kind of, say, if you have things like, say, Aadhaar number, like can you mask a couple of digits in a certain way so that system understands that it's the same Aadhaar number that we're talking about. But a layman, when they see at it, to them, they can't kind of decrypt it really or understand.
Coming to a more personal question, who have been your biggest inspiration or mentors throughout your career and why?
Okay. So, see, I think I come from a middle class background, right? For us in 95, it was always like either you make it to one of the prominent engineering colleges. There were no shops of engineering colleges all around us like we have today, right? And my father inculcated one thing early on with me is whatever you're doing, do it in a right way with ethics, right? All those kind of things. So that has kind of always been a pillar all along, right? That learning. In the professional world, there are many people, right? But if I have to kind of tell about a couple of people, I think when I went to US early on in my career, I was just like 23 years old, very young, still learning, and suddenly I was put in a culture which was very, very new to me.
Yeah.
So there was a guy named Kanan who was 5, 6 years more experienced than me. And we used to have a lot of discussions around work ethics. Even he taught me many things about the kind of work that we were doing at that time. A lot of discussions around life and those kind of things. And I think that helped me shape a little bit early on, right? And then when I was at Global Logic, one of the co-founders, Rajul Garg, so there were 4 co-founders, but Rajul was, and he's pretty much my age actually, IIT Delhi 98 batch, but he's kind of my age. And he has founded couple of billion-dollar, so couple of companies that he have founded have gone to become billion-dollar, Global Logic being one of them, Pine Labs being another. Now he runs a Leo Capital firm, right?
Yeah.
So I think what I really kind of learned observing him and interacting with him is being humble even when you have achieved so much.
Yeah.
Right. And just a common sense approach of doing business, right? Because mostly it is common sense, taking right decisions at right time, keeping your cool, right, and those kind of things.
Right.
And just using pure logic to kind of understand the thing. So that has kind of stayed with me a little bit. Of course, he's done wonders, but these are some few of the people. And I think I've been fortunate enough to have great people in my team all along, right? All the teams that I've been able to form and work with over my career have been great. I mean, I have had few very, very smart and wonderful people in my team, and I think working with them has been a great.
Yeah. So you worked in multiple countries across the globe. You've been to US, then you came back to India. Any key takeaways you wanted to share with our young listeners?
Yeah, so I've worked in US. I've worked a little bit in Europe. Spent some time in Singapore, right, and India, right. And there are a couple of things which work everywhere.
Right.
One is work ethics and knowing your skills, right? So keep learning.
Yeah.
Right. Another, I think all this is again common sense. The second thing is the communication skills, right? So over communicate, do not under communicate as much as you will. So communication is such a thing that over communication generally doesn't harm a lot.
Yeah.
Under communication will just result into a lot of nervousness, a lot of jitteriness in most of the projects.
Yeah.
Right. So those are 2 things which are generally common success factor I've seen across countries. Right. So and particularly the young generation, if you inculcate these 2 things, probably world is your stage. You can really do pretty much everything. Right?
Well, we really, it was really great listening to all the insights which you had to share with us. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, Ashutosh, the innovative mind behind KidsNagri and VcubeC Data Analytics. Your journey and insights into the integration of technology in education and data analytics, they have been truly inspiring. And we appreciate you sharing your experiences and vision with us. And to our listeners, we hope you enjoyed the conversation and took away some valuable insights. Until then, keep innovating. Thank you so much, Ashutosh, for joining us.
Thanks, Anna. Thanks for having me.